Cortez, who is my colleague from Fiscal CMO, as well as Shweta Desai, who is our AP subject matter expert, and Carmen Fernandez, our GL subject matter expert, and then we have Mike Reeves and Eleanor Alvarez, both from SEO. As a reminder, this PowerPoint presentation is already posted on our SEO Integrated Solutions site, so if you want to reference it at any point during or after the presentation, you can go ahead and access that by logging in onto fiscal.california.gov and then going to the SEO Integrated Solutions page. And we have just one housekeeping item. We ask that when we open the floor for questions, please wait for Brianna to come with the microphone. She is right there assisting us, and then speak into the microphone loud and clear so that our online guests can also hear the question. So this is our agenda for today, and we're going to kind of cover three main points. We're going to do an overview of the SEO Integrated Solution, and then we will dive deep into the business process impacts and talk about the specific changes to business processes that will impact you at your department, and then we will conclude with looking forward into next steps. So as you probably already know and have experienced, we went live with Milestone 2 in October of 2018, and you'll see here all the key functionality that we released. And then today we are going to be talking and preparing for Milestone 3.1 and 3.2, which we will be releasing in December of 2018. And again, this presentation is primarily focused on this release, so we will be talking about all of these functionalities in more detail. And then looking forward, we have Milestone 3.3 and 3.4 coming in March of 2019, and Milestone 4 and 5 coming in June of 2019. We have a master departmental work plan that details all the tasks and communications that you can be expecting in preparation for the December go live. We have had the Milestone 2.1 on our SEO Integrated Solutions page, and it has now been updated with the Milestone 3 December release tasks and communications. So again, it's on the SEO Integrated Solutions page if you want to access it, and it kind of details all the tasks and communications we are expecting to release in preparation for our go live. And then this here is our template for a journey that we want to take you as we prepare for go live. And we've incorporated lessons from Milestone 2 to better improve and iterate this so that we are addressing all the changes as effectively as we possibly can. I'm going to just kind of walk us through the journey. So you should have received the infographic, and that kind of just gives the big picture of all the key changes coming. Again, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, it is available on our page, so feel free to access it there. And then as I've just mentioned, we also have our MDW there. And then today we are at the Department Change Workshop, where we will be talking about what does this mean specifically to your department. And then we just this past Monday released a role mapping task to a specific group of departments, and we'll talk more about this task later on in the presentation. And then kind of going forward, you will be receiving a change discussion task where we will be asking you to conduct change discussions with the impacted end users at your department and really kind of talk, what does this mean for me as an individual end user? And we ask that the managers and the supervisors please conduct those change discussions. We have also incorporated, as a result of Milestone 2, WebEx town halls. This release, we will be doing 4 of them, 2 pre-go live and 2 post-go live. We have found that this was a very effective way to communicate with you guys. We loved hearing your feedback early on and in a much more time-efficient manner, and we were able to address a lot of your concerns right on the spot as well. So we will be doing 2 pre and 2 post, and you can see those on our roadmap there. And then you can also be expecting, as usual, reference guides, job aids, and other training material, as well as cutover communication the week of go live. Any questions at this point? Awesome. So we just wanted to highlight 2 key terms. We have the claim schedule, and there are 2 types, paper or electronic. Whenever we're referencing a paper claim schedule, we're talking about physical paper submission, and then an electronic one is the online submission that we know a lot of the departments do. And then a journal voucher is simply used for correcting accounting entries on an original voucher. We have 4 impacted roles this release: the AP processor, AP approver 1 and 2, GL processor, and GL approver 1. Most of the departments already have these roles, but if for any reason you want to add additional end users and assign these roles to them, you can always do that pre or post go live using the identity self-service. Any questions? Awesome. Okay, and at this point, I'd like to pass it over to my colleague, Corey Cortez, to kind of dive deep into those business process impacts.
Hey everybody, my name is Corey Cortez from Fiscal CMO. This is what you all came here for, get an understanding of how your department is impacted starting in December. So the first thing we wanted to let you guys all know about is the budget journal impacts. I know today departments will go into SEO Legacy and then they'll submit their budget adjustments there. They'll call up FSC or send an email to FSC in order for those budget adjustments to be made in Fiscal. For the most part, you'll no longer need to do that. What that means is that all your TT23s and 24s will they'll just flow from SEO Legacy directly into Fiscal. So that'll be an extra benefit for departments, a little bit less workload. I just want to let you guys all know that if you have any of these before we go live, you'll still need to have those tickets open for FSC. Any questions? Our go live right now is currently planned for December 3rd. However, post December 3rd, it's still tentative, but we're really targeting December 3rd.
For the transaction date, so December 3rd is going to be the SEO process, the adjustment date, or is the request date? So I just trying to get a clear cut, when we on the cutoff day, when we need to open the ticket, when we doesn't need to.
Okay, so for clarification, our audience asked, when is the go live date? And what that means is that starting December 3rd, we will be considered live. You'll receive a whole lot of communications about, yay, we're going live. And that you can consider that the date. Carmen, do you have any additional information to add?
So, can you hear me? So basically, if you refer to your tab run, anything that SEO posted on or after December 3rd, that will be considered after go live. If SEO posted in a tab run that is before that day, that is considered before go live.
Okay, we have any other questions? All right. So the next big change are GL journals. Currently, what everyone does is they send a paper transaction request form to SEO, that is the CA 504 form, and SEO will take that form, they'll review it, and key enter that into SEO Legacy for you guys to see on the tab run. In the future, you'll no longer need to do that for the most part. There will be some exceptions, but to get that same process, what you're going to do is you're going to enter a GL journal directly into Fiscal. And by doing so, they will need to be approved by the GL Approver 1 and certified, and SEO will be included for workflow. Fiscal will identify those transactions, and they will workflow to SEO for approval. Once SEO has approved and the transactions are posted, that will interface into Legacy.
Is that going to be included in a bond cash transfer too?
There is a pilot for 2 departments that you will be notified of if you're one of those 2 departments to test that functionality out. For now, continue to send transaction requests to SEO for bond cash transfers. All right, so that was kind of what is the change, and this is kind of how it fits in. Your GL processor will create GL journals. They'll make sure to enter the same types of information that you enter on your transaction request today. That means today when you include your legal authority or reason for request, you'll want to write that into, or you'll type that into your GL journal. There's a field for it. We'll show you some screenshots in a second. And you'll also need to include your transaction description for each line. The GL approver will now be involved. There's about maybe 20 or so departments that don't have a GL approver. We'll be working with them to make sure they get a GL approver. And all journals will need to be certified now, even if they're not the ones that workflow to SEO. For any transaction request, or any transaction, so any GL journal that currently requires a transaction request, SEO will be brought into the workflow for those. And SEO, you'll see them in your workflow approval, and they will go through and approve and work with your department. And then, as I said before, once the journal's been posted and approved, or approved and then posted, they will interface into SEO Legacy for you guys to see on your tab run. We have a question?
Is there a workflow for drawing federal funds to match the claim schedules and for bond funds to match the claim schedules?
So we're talking. Are you asking about the bond cash transfer? Yes. If you are not the pilot BU, because as we said mentioned, we selected 2 pilot BU. So if you are not one of them, you continue to do the legacy business process.
After we do our pilot, so SEO is currently doing a pilot to do those inside of Fiscal. Once we've worked out that business process, then you'll be notified more broadly, probably for the March release, that we're going to be including some of those transactions in Fiscal. But no timing yet. If there's no other questions, I'll go into what it looks like in the screenshots. Oh, one more thing. So you guys might be wondering more information about this, because there's a new field called SEO Transaction Types, and there's some intricacies to the process you'll need to know about. And we've got a job aid in draft for SEO approval of GL journals and AP journal approval or journal vouchers. This should provide you additional guidance around this whole approval process to help your departments to make sure that you're fully aware of all the changes. In most cases, you're going to use the GL journals to enter your journal entries. In some cases, like we've kind of already identified, the bond cash transfers, you'll continue to send the transaction requests. At this point in time, SEO is not preventing departments from sending transaction requests. If you do, you'll just need to make sure you use a special catch-up process, just a SEO transaction type called catch-up to help you, or so that it doesn't interface back to SEO Legacy and double count. So just be aware, you'll have the fastest turnaround time from SEO and the best results by using a GL journal where possible. And I think we got some questions.
Is there a list of the transactions that we're supposed to continue with paper?
So we've got a list of SEO transaction types. Anything on that list you'll want to enter in using a GL journal. And that should be in this job aid.
How will the finance section 3.6 and 4.1 be handled?
I'm not too familiar with the finance section 3.1. Can you please elaborate?
Adjustments to the budget for salary, wages, overhead that finance does for technical adjustments mid-year.
So, Esther, can you help?
It's a total TC 24, 23. So it's a count. If you go to SEO and SEO going to interface and to fiscal.
But the SEO inbound interface back to fiscal is not go live yet until March.
The budget journal, the first
Yeah,
one.
the budget journal it is.
Yeah. So that's part of the budget journal.
For DGS, we have been working with SEO on the impact on the funding agreements. This does not apply to that, correct? Okay, thank you.
The answer to that question is it does not apply.
We have some online questions. How will this impact the CMIA issue? CMIA for federal payments and bond payments which require cash transfer letter to be submitted to SEO prior to the voucher.
As far as I know, that CMIA process that we currently have in production is not going to be impacted. It will remain the same.
Thank you. We post corrections in the AP module so that we have a list of expenditures by supplier. How will this work with the new process? We currently send the transaction letters to SEO. When JE is received, we key in a JV, so Journal Voucher, for the expenditure correction. This is done in the AP module, not the GL.
So we have a section separate after we cover GL, specifically to deal with JVs. And when we get there, we'll answer those questions.
Thank you, Shweta. How will I identify the direct journal posted by an inbound interface as a result of remittance advice for federal drawdown in order to reclassify it to a lower level?
So that question has to do with some functionality we released in October. We recommend that departments reach out to the Fiscal Service Center for those types of questions.
Thank you. How will this GL journal flow to the Plan of Financial Adjustment report? I believe we're also going to cover this later on in the presentation.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, of course. How will this GL journal flow to the Plan of Financial Adjustment report, so the PFA report?
So we have a PFA solution in the later milestone. So this will not be included in this milestone.
Thank you. I sent remittance advice and there's no invoice set up to liquidate through an inbound interface. Therefore, Fiscal will post direct journal for me. How will I locate that journal in Fiscal?
That's also related to the October release, Milestone 2 October release. So we recommend that department reach out to the Fiscal Service Center. Okay. All right, so quickly walk you through some of the changes to the GL journal screen. You'll see that the journal description has been updated to include the legal authority and reason for request. Go ahead and see if I can zoom in for everyone. So basically in this field, all you'll want to do is enter what you currently enter on your paper transaction request forms. So there's no policy change or anything like that. It's just digitizing the paper form process into a GL journal. So the big thing I was telling you about is this SEO type of transaction. You'll see here that we have claim schedule corrections. I'll get more into what that means a little bit later, but you'll have other types of transactions as well, SEO initiated for the times that SEO sends you a journal to enter into Fiscal, those paper forms. And there's several others that we'll go over more in the job aid. So when that comes out, it's currently being reviewed, everybody will be sent an email, and that should have some more of that specific information for you. I know that some of those transaction types are in the future going to impact PFA. From now, that there's no PFA impacts for this release. But look forward to that in March. Do you guys have any questions on the screen?
That's correct.
So the question there was, does that mean that the PFA form is still on paper? Yes. You'll still continue to print your PFA out of Fiscal and send it to SEO.
Is this a functionality for direct transfers also for General Services, Department of Justice, all the other control agencies?
Are you referring to the GL journals? So it sounds like that departments receive some SEO paper forms, not necessarily SEO, but they might be direct paper journals from direct journals from SEO.
So when you receive that kind of GL journal, journal entry from SEO, you will post it in Fiscal, but you will have to pick the SEO type of transaction as SEO initiate or catch up. That will not workflow and will not interface back to SEO.
Yeah, so you'll still enter those transactions. Just make sure you use the SEO initiated SEO type of transaction, the box that's labeled here in the red. And there's a specific transaction type to make sure it doesn't workflow, because basically, Fiscal will detect it will workflow if you don't use that transaction type. That's kind of detailed out in the job aid, and that's because we just don't want double counting in SEO legacy.
I think we need to be a little bit clearer on that. So there is options, right, for the direct transfers. Some departments have decided to put it through the GL module, but Fiscal recommends that you put it, the Journal Voucher, through the AP module, because you can put in the vendor name and the JE number, which you cannot do in GL. You can put it in, a side note, but it's not the same. So so what they're saying is it's not going to be until March where maybe some of that stuff will start flowing back and forth when the book of record is in the system for GL. Right? And we will probably still want to reclassify, because it's going to be in program 9999, which normally you don't want it there if you want it to get picked up. Or if sometimes where your direct transfers need to go automatically, so you can just move it right away, so it doesn't get caught in the allocations.
And that was Tom Merez from our GL team. Thank you, Tom.
I just want to clarify on this question, because there are different type of direct transfer. So when you mention a DGS direct transfer, you should have the voucher, direct transfer DT voucher already. You normally do not record with the GL, or you don't record it by yourself, because whenever the DGS bill it will populate it as a voucher in your system. That has already been happening in the system. So the direct transfer that they are talking about is something like a PIA, that looks like not the DGS, not the fiscal department. So I just want to make sure you differentiate between the two kinds of direct transfer. Okay.
All right, thank you. That was Esther from DOF. You got some questions online now?
For a transaction request that cross to business unit and fund different funds, can we submit the transaction request in Fiscal?
Is the question is talking about cross BU?
Yes, so they say that cross to business units.
Yes, if this cross business units, unless the department has authority to record the transaction on under other BU, otherwise they will have to continue the legacy business process, that is submit the transaction request.
Okay, thank you, Carmen. And then, are there any changes to the current journal entry upload template?
Yes, that is because with the additional chart fill and the header page and the line page, we have to update the upload template.
Thank you.
And we will be releasing an updated template on the Fiscal website, as well as an updated job aid for that template that kind of identifies some of the new fields we're looking at right now.
Thanks.
Okay. The next item I wanted to point out is the transaction description. So for each, when you go into, before we were looking at the header tab, but when you click the lines tab, you'll see in your lines when you scroll all the way to the right that there is a transaction description which will match what you currently have on your CA 504 form. I hope I'm saying that right. Your paper transaction request form. And then you'll just enter exactly what you do today. Okay. So then that was for the GL processor, but now we go into the GL approver. You'll need to certify now in Fiscal, or starting when we go live on December 3rd, for all journals, you'll need to click the I certify button. And so this is a little bit different than maybe some departments are looking at the AR. This doesn't require a date or an email. This is just clicking a checkbox. Okay. And don't be alarmed if you guys see the SEO Approver 1 and SEO Approver 2 in your GL workflow. They will only be included there if this is a transaction that needs to workflow to SEO. Okay. All right, now we'll get into some of that AP Journal Voucher functionality we talked about earlier. When creating an AP Journal Voucher in Fiscal, you always need to provide that related voucher ID. This is something that departments should be doing now, but if it's one that goes for approval to SEO, because currently there is no approval in journal vouchers, in the future, journal vouchers impacting cash and or appropriation will workflow to SEO for approval. And so if you don't have that related journal voucher ID, it will get denied. So just make sure you include that. Okay, and this is how it fits in. So your AP processor will create the AP journal voucher, and then this is where you can relate to that voucher, and then attach any supporting documentation. You'll also want to make sure you enter the legal authority. This slide is a little bit slightly outdated. We'll have to update this, but there is no reason for request, just as legal authority. I'll show you some screenshots next. And I don't believe that there's a transaction description for the AP journal voucher. So that's only for GL journals. However, and this is another difference between GL journals. For the AP journal voucher, you'll only need to certify if those are going for approval. And the only ones that go for approval are those that are impacting cash and or appropriation. So if you do have if Fiscal does identify the journal voucher you're creating as impacting cash and or appropriation, there'll be a little button for you to click to send for approval. Similar to other types of vouchers, and SEO will then be involved in the workflow, and you'll have to certify those as the AP approver. And the same thing as the GL journal, once the SEO has approved and the AP journal voucher has been posted, that will workflow into SEO Legacy as well. Questions?
You said that the journal voucher, if it impacts cash or appropriation, it requires SEO approval. Does the system determine that, or does the user determine that?
The system determines.
The system determines.
Yes. If there is an impact on appropriation or revenue budgets, then it will go for approval.
So if the user doesn't check the box, and the journal voucher will not be saved.
No, so two parts to it. User will go ahead and enter the JV like they do today, and like it happens in a regular voucher, where if it has to go to SEO audits for approval, Department Approver 2 has to certify. Now Department Approver 2 will also have to certify a JV if it's going to flow down to SEO. So it's going to follow what departments see today in production for regular vouchers. It will apply to journal vouchers only if they are subject to SEO approval.
So with these changes, then the department doesn't have to submit a transaction request to SEO to move the actual money.
Correct.
Okay.
it will flow, once it is approved in Fiscal and it's posted, it will flow out to SEO as a TC.
And Fiscal checks the chart fields, and so that's how Fiscal understands if it's a cash and appropriation.
So is it similar to AR where we're going to have to monitor the GL for SEO approvals before we can post it?
No, once it's approved, that nightly batch will go ahead and post it.
Okay. And one other question. Since all journals have to be certified, can we just get it to where it certifies when you sign in, that you certify that your journals are going to be meeting those criteria under penalty and perjury, instead of having to certify every entry like we're doing in AR?
So right now you have to certify because the person who certifies is logged in the system as certified by. That's the reason why it was designed that way.
I think if you have a recommendation for Fiscal, you can follow the enterprise intake process, the EIP process, to make those improvements in the future. But for this go live, it's not working like that. Sorry.
I have a couple online questions. All transaction requests before SEO goes live, we receive a JE. How will we catch up and put in GL modules, and which SEO type of transactions should we pick?
Okay, so for your catch-up transactions, those are the transactions where you send in a transaction request and you just need to make sure that that is in Fiscal. We're going to create a video. You might have seen some catch-up transaction videos that we posted for AR. This time we're doing it more proactively, so we'll have that up for you before you go live. And then for other kinds of situations, when you receive a journal SEO, Carmen?
So to refer back to your question, so they were saying that if SEO posted and then now how are they going to post in Fiscal, right? So they will have to select the SEO transaction type as catch-up or SEO initiate. So as we talked about before, so that will not be workflow and interface back to SEO.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for that question, it's just one of these. You'll have more information about those in the job aid as well.
Okay. Another question. Will ALO journals require an approver, and will they workflow?
No, it won't.
Okay. Thank you. And then one more. If a pay-per-claim schedule is done and submitted to SEO, will the AP Journal Voucher workflow to SEO?
So for AP catch-up transactions too, there will be, like today we recorded after the fact with the second user IDs that the department has, which is manual origin. That will stay as is, and it will not go away until next year. So that will stay. And we'll cover more on claim schedules and entering them as a catch-up in Fiscal, and more maintenance on that side later down in the presentation.
Thank you, Shweta. That's all for me.
SEO initiated journals that come to the department. Do we have the capabilities of, before they're posted into our system, to reclassify like programs to lower levels or reporting structures or anything like that?
Yes, there is a drop-down menu called reclassify current account / manual allocation. You can select that type of transaction, because by selecting this SEO type transaction, it will include this transaction whenever you post into the PFA report. Because the SEO posted in the 99 account, right?
Okay.
So you will need to include those transactions. If you post this to the ultimate funding sources, that means you have to include it in the PFA.
So it'll reclassify and then be picked up in the PFA report.
Only
right?
if you select that SEO type of transaction as a reclassified current account and or a manual allocation.
Thank you.
Okay. And we do note in the job aid which transaction types will show in the PFA report.
I just want to clarify her question, Michelle. So for the SEO initiated transaction, you're still going to record in the way that SEO paid before you reclass. So you're still going to have a true transaction not one. We just want to make sure, okay?
Okay. So I want to get into some of the screens changes for the APP Journal Voucher. Zoom in for you guys. So we've highlighted your related voucher. You'll want to make sure you include these. And then your legal authority. This is what you would enter today on the paper transaction request form. Once you budget check the journal, it will identify it as needing, based on the chart field string, needing to be submitted for approval. You have to go back into the journal voucher and click the submit for approval button. That will only pop up if it impacts cash and or appropriation. In all other cases, the journal voucher will just post without approval like it does today.
Does it have to pass a budget check before the submit approval comes up?
Yes.
So just to repeat the question, does it have to pass budget check before the submit approval comes up? And the answer to that question is yes. Okay. And then here we have our journal voucher certification. So a slightly different screen in this case. You can do the I certify or I do not certify. You want to make sure you click the I do certify. I think that the question here, Shweta, is what happens if you click the I do not certify?
No, that's like normal voucher from production. If you say I do not, then it doesn't allow you to approve at department approver 2, and it just doesn't go further to SEO.
So that functions how other voucher certification does.
If the SEO approver 1 or approver 2 is required and they do not approve, what's the next step?
It doesn't get posted till they approve. So it will go to their queue, like today it goes to audits, like normal vouchers go to audits, it will just go to a group in SEO and they'll have to approve before it gets posted in FISCAP.
And in the case where they deny?
If they deny, you get it back. But as long as it is not approval, it is in approval, it will stay unposted.
If it's denied, can it be just resubmitted?
Yes. If it is denied with a comment, you can address the comment and resubmit the same document. Yes.
Yeah, that happens as other journal workflow does today, or voucher workflow.
Here we have a request from our online attendees asking, since the audio is up and down, would you kindly repeat the questions asked or information shared by the audience for the online attendees? Thank you. And then there is a question as well. Will we still be able to keep regular GL journals hitting pending cash across funds appropriations without SEO workflow?
Yes.
Yeah, SEO workflow will only be involved for AP journal vouchers if it affects cash and or appropriation. In all other cases, you'll just go and be approved automatically.
Thank you. And then another question, can journal vouchers be deleted?
Like, you can do them today. If you can do them today, then you can do them tomorrow. I don't know who has authority to delete them today.
Yeah, so right now in production, if you have a voucher, and despite any kind of voucher style, you have regular, journal, all of them, you can delete up to the point where it enters into workflow. If it goes into workflow, it no longer can be deleted. It can only be closed. That does not change.
Thank you. What backup or supporting documents will be required for journal vouchers?
Whatever they submit as a part of transaction code, but we can get back to that question because we need SEO Home to answer. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll mark that as a takeaway question.
In general, it's going to be whatever you do today, whatever you include with your transaction request today. So there is no policy change. It's just digitizing the current process.
What would we put down as legal authority for ORF replenishment?
So ORF replenishment stays as is. It'll go to SEO audits like today. If it's a JV replenishing ORF, it'll stay as is.
So what would we put inside the box? Is that a mandatory field?
No. It's only if it is going as a TC or if it's a change to impact to appropriation or cash, and it's a voucher, journal voucher, which is not a ORF replenishment, then it will ask you to enter a legal authority. If it's a JV for ORF replenishment, your business process and production will stay as is.
Thank you.
If one of these journal vouchers are denied by SEO, does it show up on the dashboard as a denied voucher?
Dashboard as in?
The AP dashboard?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a normal voucher,
Okay,
and it'll be treated like a normal voucher.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions?
Yes, one more. If you have entered a revolving fund voucher, but you find the coding is incorrect, would you do a journal voucher to correct that?
The original voucher was a revolving fund.
So if you have entered a revolving fund voucher, but you find the coding is incorrect, would you do a journal voucher to correct that?
You can, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then will you please repeat the answer regarding the ORF replenishment? We have some online attendees that didn't hear.
Okay. So ORF replenishment journal voucher process will stay as is and will not require departments to enter legal authority. That procedure, whatever is followed in production, will stay as is, even with milestone 3.
Yeah, you should get, if you to help you guys ease into it, when you do your JVs, you can leave the legal authority blank, and if it does impact cash in or appropriation, an error will pop up telling you need to include something in that field. Is that correct, Shweta?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be an easier way to understand this for your typical JVs that you do. You'll just keep doing them, and then eventually if you see a screen that says you need to enter a legal authority, that's when you'll know you'll need to include SEO into your workflow. Okay, so I'll go ahead and move on. Just like with GL journals, the AP Approver 2s or AP Approver 1s, you'll see the SART Approver 1 and SART Approver 2. I don't know if those would be the way they're going to look in your system, but you'll see some people there from SEO, so don't worry about it. If you're wondering, like, who are these people? They're not in my department. I don't know them. That's just SEO to make sure that everything you're doing is good. All right, so we've got a lot of questions around the claims processing. I know this is a big concern for some departments, and there's a lot of these that are going to happen. So for the most part, you'll want to create vouchers whenever you're trying to make a payment. Oh, questions?
I have to ask the obvious. What's the turnaround time for SEO approvals, especially with closing periods?
We'll get back to you. This is a question for SEO Home. We'll get back to you on that.
Okay. For the most part, you can expect them to stay the same, but we'll have to get more. I think there's supposed to be some guidance coming from SEO about closing months and stuff like that coming up. We have another question.
Will we need to be making changes to our allocation for month? When we do month-end close, is the journals that are created, they're not supposed to workflow, I'm assuming.
Correct. Your allocation journal, right? Are you saying?
The allocation configuration.
No change.
Okay.
An online question. How do we keep track of payments made outside of Fiscal, and how can we transfer them into Fiscal?
That's the next section. So let's hold on for one slide.
I can walk through the kind of the high-level changes here. So typically, you'd want to use a voucher to create a payment, but we do know that departments, and you guys know why you do it, send a lot of claims to SEO, whether those be electronic or paper. When you submit those claim schedules to SEO, you'll have to sometimes create a catch-up voucher. You'll no longer need to do that. So all of you, whenever you send a claim schedule to SEO, you no longer have to have that secondary ID to enter a catch-up voucher, except if it's related to a PO. There's a potential there for you to have to connect some things we'll talk about in a second. So that all claim information, those payment details, are now interfaced into Fiscal from SEO Legacy, and they're interfaced in Fiscal AP. And then if you do need to do a reclassification of those payments, whether it's a correction or just a reclassification to a lower level detail, maybe it's a project or something, some lower level that's departmental only, you'll have to submit a GL journal to do those reclassifications, or you have to submit a GL journal to do a correction. You remember earlier we had that screenshot that shows a SEO transaction type claim schedule corrections, so you want to use that for these. If you have a PO or 1090 reporting, you'll have to manually adjust the 1099 supplier balances if you have those in Fiscal. I know a lot of departments keep their 1099s outside of Fiscal, so if you do that, you can continue doing that. And for a PO, you'll need to manually liquidate those POs. We've got some job aids I'll talk about in a little bit. Or this kind of a new concept is to create a net $0 voucher. That's what I was kind of mentioning with the POs. So if you might still need to do a catch-up voucher for POs. It claims they're related to POs just to make sure that they net to 0, so they don't double count any kind of accounting in Fiscal. We'll show you how this all fits together. So you as departments will continue to submit claim schedules to SEO. SEO will then keep producing the warrants for you through that process. There's no change to it. Fiscal will record all that payments directly into Fiscal AP. Then they will flow to GL. That's why you'll need to make your corrections in GL. In the case where you have claims related to POs, you can do a net $0 voucher, or you can just manually liquidate those POs. We have a job aid that's already available for that. And in that case, you'll need to use your secondary ID if you do that. And then the GL processor can reclassify or make corrections as needed. So just a quick update to this, the CD 173 returned warrant layout will be updated. We have like a WebEx session, the town hall next week. We'll talk more about later that I think that maybe that one or another one, disbursements one. We'll have some people from disbursements who want to come talk to you guys about some of the changes to that whole process. Do you guys have any questions?
Currently, one of the advantages of catch-up transactions from an AP perspective is to look at a vendor's payment history, see if there's any billing gaps. Without the catch-up transactions, is there going to be an easy way to do this, since there won't be a visible voucher?
I'll leave this one to Shweta.
Can you say that again, because I'm not aware. Are you aware of what they do today? No. I think that's a different question, yeah.
Basically, if we have to, for instance, expedite a payment to a given vendor, we do the catch-up transaction, then reflect in the system. So if we do a voucher search under this vendor ID, we can see their entire billing history. But if we're not doing catch-up transactions, there's no voucher created. Is there some easier way to then verify that, for instance, the bill was paid for May if all we see is April and June?
So if you submit a paper, that's expedite, right? So if you do a paper, it's going to come into system. We are going to interface it from legacy into Fiscal, not as a voucher. So you won't see it as a voucher, but the warrant information will be there in the system. There are the inquiry pages where you can go and look at what was paid out, but the electronic claims or the paper claims that come back in, they don't tie back to the supplier record in Fiscal. So you won't be able to go to the supplier and drill down to give me everything that was paid for the supplier, but all the warrants would be there in the system.
So Jeremy, do you want to talk about that? Mhm.
The interfaces to pay by SEO, because we have electronic claim schedule. So when SEO pays the claim schedule, it interfaces to AP module. How does it interface into the supplier?
It doesn't interface into a supplier. It comes, all the payment records or all the warrants that were issued by SEO through any type of claim get interfaced to Fiscal, and they sit there as a payment record. Because when SEO sends us the information, the claim just has the payee names and the details. We don't tie back necessarily to the supplier ID in Fiscal when we submit the paper claim to Legacy, right?
So which is an AP module that you
It's in AP. It's completely custom. You won't see them on the screens that you access today in production. It's something that's coming in with Milestone 3.
So if I have a warrant number,
you should be able to see all the accounting related to that warrant, or for that matter for the electronic claim, through some new screens in Milestone 3.
New screen? New screen? Which one? For the $0 voucher. Are you working with Jeremy on that? Okay.
Without recording, if we don't have tracking as an ACT or a voucher in AP, and it's disconnected, and it's done through, I assume, GL Journal, our AP catch-up, it'll come through as a journal?
It'll come as a payment transaction.
Our paper claim will payment transactions.
Yes.
But if we don't do catch-up, disencumbering on a PO, or even manual recording on the 1099, and as this person over here said, we will not be able to do any reconciliation to our vendors on contracts, or once the PO is disencumbered, it doesn't really, you have that disconnect where it doesn't show that there was a payment made to that PO, because it's not going to be recorded in our accounts payable system. If you don't match to the PO, and you just do a manual disencumbrance, you're going to lose track of the.
So for liquidating the PO and associating with the contract, that there's a separate job aid for doing a $0. But you are right, it doesn't directly relate to the warrant itself. You will be still able to liquidate the part of your PO that was paid using that warrant when you enter that catch-up transaction in Fiscal. But it will be manual catch-up, because when we interface the information back from Legacy, we don't have enough detail to link it to a transaction in Fiscal.
That's going to be very hard for the agencies to do reconciliations on a vendor or on a contract when it's disconnected like that.
So right now, when you're putting in a paper claim schedule and you send it to SEO, you do a manual voucher with a manual origin, correct? And that way, when you're recording that catch-up transaction, it's linking to the PO and the contract and your 1099. So what you're doing when you're sending it in the new process that we're putting in is you're creating a papers claim. That paper comes going in, re-recording the payment on the payment table. But if you need to link that to a purchase order and a contract, you can do that through the $0 voucher style. So it shouldn't be any more work than you're doing now, because the solution currently is to create a manual voucher. The solution going forward is to create a $0 voucher. So
And Mike,
I've heard you guys say several times that the payments are coming through on the payment information, and the warrants are being recorded. Is SEO recording the expenditure portion or just the payment information?
The expenditure will be recorded based on what was submitted on the claim schedule itself.
And then we would be able to reclassify with the $0 vouchers at the lower levels of where the expenditures actually belong.
Yes.
To the lower level program. Thank you.
So can those payments be reclassified, those manual payments be reclassified so that they are recorded in the supplier records?
When you create the voucher, you link it to a supplier. So yes, it will relate to the supplier at that point.
$0 voucher will be linked to the supplier at that point, so there'll be a total payment history by supplier?
So the $0 voucher itself will not issue a payment, but the liquidation of the PO will be done at the supplier level. All your other balances would be right at the supplier.
So we can do a complete reconciliation with the supplier by accounts or by total supplier for all payments, for all POs by supplier?
For all POs, yes.
Okay, we understand this is a big change for departments. This is why we have that created in that $0 voucher. This is some functionality that is going to be fleshed out more in the March release. But for now, you can do the manual origin vouchers. We have Jeremy Griever to provide some more context. You want to stand here, Jeremy?
So my group right now is working on the $0 vouchers, right? Because so when you copy a PO to voucher now, right? You copy PO receipt and bring that in, your PO lines on your voucher. So basically, the intent behind the $0 is that you would copy the PO receipt to the voucher, right? It would bring it in, say it's $500. Now, since the interface already recorded that $500 in GL as an expenditure, so you create a new voucher line on the voucher, backing out that same coding. That way, there's an overall $0 impact to your GL, right? And it still liquidates your PO. And if you have project costing, information, you can still put that on the $0 voucher as well, and that way it'll flow to project costing. But as far as payment reconciliation on a supplier, so if you run, reports based on vouchers, right, some of these $0 vouchers are going to show. So it's not going to show you the actual payment that you made to the supplier of $500. It's going to show you, the vouchers you created, and then you might have a $0 voucher there. So you might have to investigate that $0 voucher a little bit more to know the exact amount that you paid that supplier. And also at the same time, because 1099 information is based on payment, $0 vouchers have a $0 payment. So you will also have to go and record a 1099 adjustment directly against the supplier for the amount that you need, for the 1099 reportable amount.
Sorry, I'm not trying to beat the dead horse on this one, but that's perfectly well and good for PO-related vouchers, but for utility vendors, which we often have a high demand of payment history, regular billing cycles, and payment status, we wouldn't do a $0 voucher because there's no PO related to it, but if the vendor contacts us later to figure out where their payment is, normally we can search by an invoice number, find it easily, and we record during a catch-up transaction all the warrant information. That's going to be completely gone from the history if we just do a search for, say, an account number inside the AP module. So what are our options with this to make sure we capture that and can easily provide this for them with an inquiry?
Yeah, so it sounds like they're going to have to do some research and get back to you guys on this. This is kind of new to my folks too, so we're kind of having the same questions that you guys are, and we're trying to work with the SEO team too to come up with some better solutions for departments, right? Because I've really got my department hat on, and I'm working with SEO to see how we can make this easier for you guys. Because we understand it used to be a one-step process. You would enter a catch-up voucher, it would do your 1099 reporting, do your liquidating, have any AP reports related to that, all of that. So we understand that, we've recognized it, and we're trying to work with SEO to see if we can improve that.
Will Fiscal create a query for this payment table?
So there is a screen where you can pull up and see, but
That when a vendor, utility vendor, you have to respond to them. So if there's a query of all the payments that we can query off and do our Excel filter, it will be very helpful.
right
Yes.
now there is nothing for the department. There's something that we built for SEO, and we can evaluate if you can use the same information, but we'll have to get back to you on
I
that.
think it will be very useful for all state departments.
Okay.
We have some online questions, if it's okay to do them now. Jeremy, there was a clarification asking, did you say that a $0 voucher will be linked to a supplier?
Yes, because when you, like, the $0 for... Can I just want to sit down. So yes, so when you know how your PO's related to a supplier, right? So when you copy that PO to voucher, it's going to bring the same supplier information in.
Thank you.
And then the same chart fields and everything that are on your PO.
Perfect, thank you. We had a couple questions around being able to mask confidential data. So our department uses paper claims to pay our volunteers' payroll. Could the names of paper claims be masked because these are confidential data? And then another similar question, what is the process with SEO electronic claims that are confidential and currently paid outside of Fiscal? Only the total of the claim schedule is recorded in Fiscal, not the detailed payment info.
So, everything that comes through SEO interfaces like that will have a payee name, but that's not accessible to any through any inquiry pages to departments. It's SEO only. It's a custom page where you can see those payments, which is available only for disbursements because they need to look at it. And all your delivered screens, all the screens that you use today to inquire payments, they will not have this information for you to look. And that's why it's on the report. Yeah.
Another question, from what FM is the paper claim information interface from SEO Legacy to Fiscal? From what FM is the paper claim information interface from SEO Legacy to Fiscal?
It'll be starting the go live date, right? Okay.
That would be starting December 3rd.
Starting December 3rd.
If these are done in the GL module, then how will Fiscal catch duplicates?
Duplicates. So there is a system check when we import information from Legacy to look at the duplicates, and we will detect them when we get them in.
Okay. Almost all of our programs are at a lower level, subtask and project. This process will force us to reclass almost all voucher transactions. Can we opt out of this process? If not, is there a way for SEO to post catch-up correctly to our lower level program?
No.
The answer to that is
Are we going to pass this question? Is that a takeaway? Yes? Okay.
So there is no opting. It's not optional. It's basically a full warrant record in Fiscal, so we'll get all the warrants issued by SEO in Fiscal. Let's have a question.
Between the December go live date and then this new improved process coming in March, would a department have the option to just opt out of this and continue to record their catch-up vouchers the way we do it today?
So we are getting we will get in all the warrants in starting December 3rd. They will still have option of catching it up, but if they catch up the same warrant number, it's going to double book for expenditures and cash.
so essentially the net zero is where you would do the net of this current process to make sure that you're not double counting.
So my question on this is, would this payment file will be posted on the open Fiscal? So we were coming up in, I think at the end of December or January, we're going to have the open Fiscal, and the payment information is going to be posted on the Open Fiscal. So with this information goes in there.
No. This will not get posted.
Okay. Yeah, we had an online question that was asking if expenditures will be posted in Open Fiscal.
No.
Thank you. If this is posted in the GL, can departments unpost it and post it as a voucher in the AP module? We must track our expenditures at a supplier level.
No.
Thank you. What if the original voucher hits a budget error? Who will fix it?
If there is a budget error on the claims that get interfaced, is that the question?
I am not sure, but I assume so.
Okay. It will be handled by SEO along with the SEO Fiscal business team. They will handle the exceptions.
Thank you.
For all of those journal entries that have to be reclassified to a lower level, does Fiscal have an additional step of allocation they plan on implementing?
Right now, we don't know if there is a logical, if there is a rule-based allocation based on it always has to go to a certain place. So if, okay, I mean, if you know, then there can be allocations made. They are not going in right now, but if there is a pattern, they can be allocated. Yes.
Another online question. Which voucher style do we select for the net $0 voucher using a secondary ID that would liquidate POs?
It will be regular, and there will be a job aid for details of how to record.
Thank you. And then also, we currently use claim schedules for expedite claims and claims requiring special handling. Since the functionality is not available in Fiscal, when will these functionalities be available?
So for special handling, we're working on a solution currently to handle special handling. For expedites, it's going to be end state for anything between 1 and 5 days, and we're currently looking at getting a solution in place to have expedites in the system from 5 to like 15 days. So.
And for everybody asking what end state might be, that's when SEO retires SEO legacy and moves completely into Fiscal.
Yeah, because right now the way that we handle the payments is that you submit a claim schedule, and then we have to, or you submit a voucher, and then we have to put that voucher information into legacy, do the budget and cash check, and then put that information back into Fiscal, and it's about a 5-day process to do that. And we can't get along making that time period any shorter until we're not, moving data back from one system to another. So.
Hi, I'm with Cal OES and the trouble no. I'm with Cal OES, and just to let you know that right now we are submitting about 30 claims, expedite claims every day to SEO. And the option of a zero journal voucher is a no-no for us because FEMA requires us to submit the federal reporting, the federal financial report, quarterly at a supplier level. I'm hoping that you guys will be able to allow us to post those claim schedules, expedite claim schedules, the way we're doing right now using the secondary email address or the secondary login address. And if you guys have no solution, I'm hoping that it's because earlier you said that option is not a possibility, but I'm hoping that you guys will other departments like us before you guys make that decision, because this impacts our federal reporting.
We're kind of in a bind in order to do that, because part of the integrated solution is to get SEO in the system in terms of what our legacy system is. So we're really making Fiscal our warrant book of record. So when you send us a paper claim, we have to interface that warrant data into Fiscal. So if we allow you, because if we're inputting all of the warrant data into Fiscal, and then we allow you to create a manual voucher the way you do today and record a payment, you'll be recording it twice, because we're recording it for you, and then you're doing another one to record it again.
Your record doesn't, so can we not reverse your entries when it comes in?
No.
Okay. I think we've kind of discussed this topic enough. We all know that there's some departmental disconnect, and we've taken some notes, and we'll have to get back to you on with more information on guidance from SEO on how departments should transact for these situations.
I have a question with the reporting structures. When information comes from SEO to our department, we are configured to where reporting structure is a requirement for any 5 type accounts entries. Is that is the reporting structure going to have to be like configured, or if I go to reverse the SEO information and then put it at the lower detail, I wouldn't be able to reverse it without a reporting structure.
We would default a reporting structure which you'll have to use when you reverse it on the voucher.
So you would do a default reporting structure? Okay, thank you.
We have some online questions. Can we close the PO instead to liquidate it in order to avoid the zero voucher in the report?
Yeah, so there's currently a job aid. The next page is closing a purchase order to release encumbrance balances. You can still do that. That's the process that DGS recommends you follow. Any other questions?
Yeah. When SEO loads these vouchers that we cannot see, what origin source are you using? Same as TC47, parentheses, NFO? Question.
No.
No.
These are not vouchers, so they don't appear on voucher screens. They are payment-only information. So it wouldn't coexist with a voucher.
Okay, thank you. And then for those participants that are providing feedback online, thank you. We are taking note of it, and we will address your concerns.
Okay. We have another question?
This is a question. So in terms of closing the PO, so earlier we were saying that there was a question saying that if they can just close the PO instead of the $0 voucher. Is that possible? Because my understanding is that you can't just close a PO. It needs to be liquidated through a voucher, correct?
I mean, obviously, the recommended solution is to, create a voucher. That way you can liquidate your PO, right? But there is job aids available, and VGS does have a process to being able to manually close your PO, right? The problem is it's difficult to incrementally liquidate it, right? So say if your PO is $1,000 and you paid only $500 outside the system, that's where it's difficult to go in and close just the $500. Right, so that's why we're in the final stages of testing the $0 voucher. Right, we've tested most of it. It does work, but we're trying to work out a couple kinks that we found. So, like I said, I mean, we're really working at trying to make this easier on departments. We definitely see the need, and we see the the issues. So, my team's working on it.
So, follow-up question on the manually closing the PO. So, without touching to the voucher, and then you just go to the PO and then close it. And so how it's going to impact the skipper, and then, how DGS will react on that.
So DGS is the one that recommended using this job aid, right? So this job aid doesn't affect their skipper's reporting. we reached out to them to make sure that we're all on the same page with what job aid to use if they had to close the PO instead of a voucher.
Online question, will there be an option in GL to key in the supplier/vendor number in the reference field for research purposes?
If it's a manual $0 voucher, the supplier information will be there on the voucher itself when they key it in.
I think this is in reference to catch-up paper claims interface to Fiscal.
Yes, if they'll do a $0 voucher, and when you enter a voucher, the supplier information will go with the voucher.
Okay, thank you.
With all the confusion and things not totally being completely worked out yet, is this December release going to happen?
We hope so. We'll have answers for you before that.
Yeah, I can go through some of the activities that we'll have.
Hello, again, thank you, Corey, and thank you for all of your questions. We know that there is a lot of confusion. We are taking note, and we will do our best to address all of them. In the meantime, I did want to just do a quick overview of some of the things we will see coming your way within the next few weeks. Once again, if you haven't already done so, please share this PowerPoint and materials with your impacted end users at your department, and it is posted on the SEO Integrated Solutions page. And then I'll go in detail through the next 4 bullet points. So we have released this Monday at role mapping tasks to a select group of departments, and it is the departments that currently had 0 levels of approval, and we are asking them to assign at least 1 GL approver, 1 role. And this task is due on Friday, November 16th. So if your department is impacted, please make sure you complete the task by November 16th. And again, all of the role mapping is done using the identity self-service then. We will also be releasing a change discussions task in the next week or so. We ask that you please coordinate with your, again, impacted end users. That would be the AP processor, the AP approver 1 to the GL processor and GL approver 1, and have your managers or supervisors conduct those change discussions to make sure that our end users really understand what are the specific changes coming to their day-to-day business process workflow. And then we are having 4 upcoming town halls where we will be addressing more of these issues, where we will be updating you with some new information as a result of all of the questions that you guys brought up today. You should have received in your inboxes around 1 o'clock today 2 invites for the pre-go live town halls, one on November 14th and the next one on November 27th. Both will be from 1:30 till 3:30. And then we will also be hosting 2 post-go live town halls. Again, these are fully online, one on December 5th and one on December 12th. That's Wednesdays from 1:30 till 3:30. And we really hope that you're able to attend. We have found it very helpful in our past release to hear your feedback and to be able to address it as soon as possible and have this one-on-one interaction. So we encourage you to attend and to encourage people and the impacted end users at your departments to join in as well. And we will also be creating catch-up videos for Go Live. We are specifically targeting the AP Journal Vouchers and the GL journals, and these will be posted on the SEO Integrated Solutions page at least 1 week before cutover. That is all the information that we have for you today. Any questions at this point?
So we will keep our panel here for questions. We're going to keep asking questions from the online audience. I just wanted to let everybody know that the session, it goes until 4:30, so we still have another hour and a half. So if there are questions, we know that there are some issues around the claims processing, so I'd like everyone to avoid those questions, but if you have any other questions, please ask. And
Hello.
Hey, you did a good job.
Hello. Hello.
And so online, everybody, we had a question about how to get to the resources page. Hey, everybody. Okay. Yeah, so really quickly, you can find our SEO integrated solution page if you go to the Fiscal website at fiscal.ca.gov. You go to resources under library, and then you click the SEO integrated solution. And here is where you can find the PowerPoint presentation as well as our infographic for Milestone 3. We're going to take a quick 10-minute break, so people in the audience who would like to leave can leave, and then we'll come back and we'll continue answering questions. We'll come back at 3:06. We'll make it a 5-minute break. Suara. 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 Okay. So we're going to start questions. We have a lot of questions from our online audience.
Yeah.
Because none of us are going to listen.
We'll do it anyway. All right, Carolina, go ahead.
One of the online questions that I just wanted to address real quick was, we did receive about the upcoming town halls. Are we going to cover the same topics, or are they going to be different?
All right, so for the upcoming town halls, our first town hall on November 14th, that town hall, we're going to be showing everybody a demo of the functionality. And so this will be a great place for us to demonstrate some of the functionality around AP. So that can be some of the conversations that are happening right now around... Hey, Carmen? Thank you. We're answering questions from the online audience. Sorry. That'll be a great place for us to show a demonstration of some of the things that we can do with AP to make sure some of the supplier balances. Over the next week, we have our AP team with Jeremy Grieber here at Fiscal. He's going to be working with our SEO team here at Fiscal, the sprint team with AP, to make sure that some of these items can be addressed. So our first town hall is going to be a short demo. It's a 2-hour session. You guys might have been familiar with them from Milestone 2. And hopefully you guys like them. And we'll be able to go through and walk through everybody in Fiscal what that's going to look like. We're also going to have some people from SEO Disbursements come on. They have some changes or updates they want to share with the warrant process. I think it has to do with the post... Yeah, the CD 173 with return for return warrants. There's a form, there's a layout update to it. So you just kind of want to help and walk it through there. We mentioned it today in the presentation. So that'll be for the 2 pre-go live, the content will be fairly similar. There may be some updates as our SMEs come together and architect some of the solutions around AP. So I highly recommend that every department goes to these WebEx town halls. They'll be a great place for departments to get more information directly from our SMEs. Yeah, so all the town hall meetings will be WebEx only. There won't be an in-person audience. We talked through how we wanted to host the workshop. We have the workshop where we invited all of the end users because sometimes it's good to get a face to who you're speaking to or who you're hearing information from during these town halls. But the town halls are just WebEx.
When you manually close the PO and there are funds left that you want to move to another fiscal year, this does not release the funds to be able to be used. It closes the encumbrance and the funds are no longer available.
Yeah, so what the question is referring to is the job aid 243 closing a purchase order to release encumbrance balances. We understand that. I think that's something related to some of the voucher questions that we've had, that if you want to, the preferred method is to use a voucher to close out your POs. So in order to do that, with the new process, you'd have to create a net $0 voucher. So you still have to go create that manual voucher. And then in Milestone 3, we have a newer, better $0 voucher that's coming out. But until then, you have to use your secondary ID to do so. And we know that there's some issues around FEMA and supplier balances and some of the details there as well. So we're going to investigate the best solution for departments with our SMEs.
Why can't the payment information be linked to the catch-up vouchers created by departments instead of loaded separately?
Because we don't have all the information it requires to create a voucher when we get the information back from SEO.
Thank you. Will direct transfer journals CC38 be interfaced into Fiscal?
No, not in this milestone.
Okay. If we submit the paper claim schedules with all of the chart field details, would the SEO record all those? Will the SEO record all those details? If yes, would we not be required to reclass the transaction?
You can't submit the details to SEO legacy for certain departmental chart fields. So if whatever is submitted to SEO from appropriation perspective will stay as is. If there is a departmental detail of chart field required on the transaction, then SEO cannot record it, so it has to be done in Fiscal.
Thank you. Is paper SEO transaction requests, are paper SEO transaction requests still acceptable, and for how long? So can they still send paper transaction requests,
Yes.
and for how long?
Until end state, yeah. There'll be a separate communication from when they shouldn't be doing it.
Will you be posting the questions and answers online?
So this presentation is being recorded. I know that there were some audio issues. We did our best to try to work that out. Hopefully the WebEx town halls will have some better audio. We have a different setup for that. So the presentation is online. The recording will be online. We'll have some conversations about actually going in and capturing the questions in text form. I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that. It depends on our kind of availability. We've got a lot of priorities right now, but we'll see what we can do. And for SEO end state, I just wanted to put a comment out that transaction requests are still going to be accepted by SEO, and it just comes down to the fact that it'll be easier for a department to do a GL journal directly in Fiscal, and that saves some work, and having that automated or digitized workflow process is an advantage. So departments can still keep sending transaction requests as needed. It's just not the recommended approach. Is that correct, Carmen?
Yes, as much as possible, they can submit the transaction request, but we mentioned that there are some exceptions, like cross BU when the department doesn't have authority to post transaction on other departments' behalf, or some things like that will, like the less funding transaction, so they will have to submit the TC24 and the TC38 transaction. This kind of transaction, we will have to do it in the paper claim transaction format instead of doing it online journal. Because in Fiscal, we cannot post it. When we create a GL journal in GL module, it will post to only one TC. We cannot trigger the system to post in the KK module.
So thank you. So as much as possible, use the GL journal, and then in kind of exception cases, continue sending your transaction requests.
Thank you. Could you show us once again where the PowerPoint for this presentation is located?
Okay. So if you go to the Fiscal website, if you haven't seen it in a while, it did get a redesign. And then under Library, you can click it, or you can just highlight your mouse over it and go to Resources. And then on the left here, you'll see SEO Integrated Solution. So this is a page that all kind of departments should be using, because this is where for the SEO release, the integrated solution, we are putting as much information here as possible. You'll see some content from Milestone 2, some catch-up videos that we have for you, if you're still doing those for Milestone 2, your EFITS catch-up. And then we will continue to post catch-up videos. So the catch-up videos are if you have sent a paper transaction request form and you still need to enter that into Fiscal, you'll still need to do a GL journal to make sure that your Fiscal balances match your SEO legacy balances. This is why the recommended approach is to continue to use GL journals, or to start using GL journals for transaction requests. You don't have to do that twice. You don't have to fill out a paper form.
Could you please highlight the line with the PowerPoint so there's no confusion? Thank you.
So this is the line with the PowerPoint from today's presentation.
Okay. Another question. We just want to confirm that departments will still have to send bond cash transfer letters to SEO for vouchers or corrections.
Yes. Bond cash letters will still need to be sent, I believe, except a pilot audience. But there's only 2 departments, so you'll know who you are. but for the most part, continue sending your bond cash transfer letters to SEO.
Since we mentioned about the milestone 2 with the October release, there is still a lot of issues with the deposit and the AR. If there's any update on the release of the Job A, how to fix a lot of issues. Like we have issues with the EBA account comes in triple times, not only double with the same deposit, and how the agency cannot delete it. What is the solutions for the agency to be able to to fix all this error? And also same thing as the workflow issues with the deposits, and then we get the residents that do not complete the deposit, and that's affecting, I think, not only our agencies, but most of the agencies.
Yeah, so there was 2 communications that went out for Milestone 2, and we don't have our Milestone 2 SMEs here, so we can't answer your detailed questions. I apologize. You'll have to work through the FSC. But there were 2 communications. One, BUSN 907A, which told you to stop because they were in the middle of doing some code fixes. Then BUSN 907B was sent out, so if you haven't seen it, please, all departments, you can go in there and you can close your deposit, so you can do that. That was done, I believe, a few weeks ago, so if you didn't see it, please go do that. Complete all your deposits, get those into approvals. That's all been corrected as far as I know. And then if your department does want more communication with SEO, please call SEO or call FSC and then work with them to help with any kind of remaining issues you have for your Milestone 2.
I have a question regarding the slide SEO legacy claim interface. If you could go back there. I'll go.
Okay.
Thank you. My question is that claim schedule to SEO, first part, departments submitting the claim schedule, that's very clear. The second part, records, record payment details recorded in AP is not very clear. I know that I heard there are custom tables or custom sortable transactions there, but what other records what other transaction? Is it accounting entries being recorded in AP, and is it in the appropriation level? How does it impact us in AP? I know can you give us a little bit more information?
So electronic claims would come in, the payment information will come in, which is warrant details and dollar amounts and all that stuff. And there will also be accounting created from that transaction and will be posted to you at the level that was submitted to SEO on the claim schedule. So on the chart fields or at the appropriation level on the claim schedule. Yes.
Claim header level. It's the fund, program, blah,
Fund,
blah, blah.
program.
In that level will be posted. No vendors.
No vendor.
It's just agency.
Agency. It's like accounting information. Yes.
And how that information is going to be extracted from AP to GL.
It'll be like your vouchers. When you create accounting entries, they get posted to GL. Claims will also get posted to GL. Yes.
Okay, it's going to be loaded from SEO.
It'll be loaded from SEO. We'll create accounting entries and they'll flow to your GL. User
department.
So you will see the accounting entries, yes. You don't have to take any action. You can see the posted transaction.
Take it from a summary appropriation level
to detail
to the department expenditure level, like which reporting structure, whatever we want to take, we take it from a high level to a low level VI journal entry.
Yes. Daily. Every day, whenever it is issued, the day it is processed in legacy, it will come in system.
And it will have the schedule number on it.
Yes. So you will be able to inquire on the basis of your BU, your claim schedule number, and you can pull up what was posted. Yes.
So on the legacy claims that we were just talking about, so those supplier detail will be lost, right? Is there a way that you can explore that AP can create the shell in AP module, then SEO can go in and post the payment detail to that voucher in AP module?
So right now there is no link. The way the way information flows from SEO back to Fiscal, SEO doesn't have that information. So if we had that information, we would have made a voucher. The
But, I
reason why
mean,
it's not a voucher.
You have access to a Fiscal though, so if we create the voucher, we send you the claim, then you pay the claim, you go into Fiscal to that voucher and record your payment.
So, but then there is no link. I mean, if we can enter the voucher in Fiscal, then we have all the information. When the information comes from Legacy, it doesn't tie back to supplier because you're not required to submit that information on the claim schedule.
Correct.
And claim schedule right now in like SEO mainframe is not designed to read it and then give it back to us.
The payee, I think for electronic claim schedule, the payee information is there.
So pay information is there, but you don't give supplier ID for us to tie back to vendor ID in Fiscal. It needs payee name and address because it gets printed on the warrant. Yes, that information is there. We will get it back from Legacy into Fiscal because it's available in a Legacy. But like Fiscal vendor ID, they don't have a record of it, so we can't bring it back in, and that way we can't link it back to the voucher.
Maybe we need to build those common links.
Thank you, Shveta, and thank you, participants, for that discussion. I'm going to go back to asking online questions. Is CC39 for PIA direct transfer affected by new journal voucher instructions? Is CC39 for PIA direct transfer affect journal voucher instructions? Do we need clarification on
I
this
need
question?
clarification to what
Okay.
39 is.
Lori
39.
Jones, please submit clarification.
So 39 is Carmen answered as direct transfers. That process will remain as is as production.
Okay. Okay. Will remain as is. If the transaction request journal is created from an allocation that includes claim schedule corrections among other corrections, what SEO type of transaction would be selected?
Claim correction.
Okay, claim correction, and Corey is showing it on the screen.
But yeah, I mean, there are two different types of journals, Svetlana. The allocation journal is allocation is system generated, doesn't need SEO to approve it. And if
Okay.
it's a claim correction, then it's a journal that's entered manually, and that will go with the SEO transaction type of claim correction, will need SEO to approve it and flow back.
Okay, thank you. I think this was asked earlier, but I couldn't hear the answer. Do allocation journals generated by the system go through SEO approvals?
The answer is no.
Thank you. And what is CD 173?
CD 173 is when a warrant is returned because it's undeliverable. That's a notice that goes back to department to check what's the follow-on action the department wants to take on that specific voucher, on that specific warrant.
Okay, looks like that is it for online questions. To our online participants, thank you so much for your patience. We know that there was quite a few technical difficulties, and we will do our best to work them out by our next WebEx Town Hall next week. So we hope you can join us online there, and if there was anything you missed or need clarification, we'll be more than happy to provide it at that time.
So when SEO they're gonna issue the warrant and then they're gonna upload the information in Fiscal, how we're gonna check the warrant information?
Say that again. I can answer that for you. I need someone from SEO to answer it. I don't know. So I'll get back to you on that one.
Thank you.
Do you have to register for the WebEx, the Town Hall WebEx sessions? For ET crime schedule, the department currently receive a DEX file. Will the DEX file continue to be provided to the department from SEO? Yeah. Okay.
This is just a quick question about electronic claims, and you guys may have answered it already. I'm not 100% sure with some of the confusion, so I apologize if it's a duplicate. But so we have large volumes of payments that go out with our electronic claims. So when you guys are interfacing the electronic claim in, is that the claim schedule level or is it at the payment level? But that was, I think you said earlier, that was only on SEO side. Mm-hmm. So when you're posting that electronic claim for the department, you're interfacing that in. Is it a total for the claim schedule? Okay, very good.
I'm curious, on the Town Hall WebEx meeting, would it be possible for you guys to demo this interface to show us what information is available? What would you recommend for department to prepare for this go live milestone anniversary? What not to do?
We'll be sending out another task because there are some items that you will have to do. I can speak briefly for them now. If you have any journals that are in workflow, you'll want to make sure that those are not in workflow when we go live. Otherwise, we'll kick you out and you have to redo them. And so we'll send more of that information out later. I think that'll be an item for us to talk through more for the Town Hall WebEx right before we go live that week of. If we go to the calendar, it would be the November 27th session. So for the November 14th session, this is going to be more about the demonstration. And I think even at that point, we're going to talk through more about the cutover, kind of what you need to do to be ready. And hopefully we'll have some more answers for you when it comes to your suppliers. We know that's a big hot button issue for you guys. All right. Were there any more online questions? Okay, so it seems like there was a few more online questions.
Can we record the payment information in the $0 voucher?
You technically can, but since the dollar amount of the voucher is 0, it wouldn't have any added advantage of capturing that information.
Okay. Question 2 from the same user, role mapping. Who should be assigned the GL approver roles, including AP processors, so they can post the $0 journal voucher?
Two different things.
Yeah, it is different. So who should be assigned the GL approver role? Let's answer that first.
That is for department to determine who should be the approver on the department side.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, typically, if your job is related to posting journals, you'll want to, or you're a more senior accounting person. Those are typically the people who would do the GL approvers. GL processors might be a little lower level accounting people, junior accounting, and then the same thing with APs. Those are the people who are doing your payments in your accounting. So depending on your department, we can't really give you a good answer that's going to fit every department because every department is different.
Which report or query provide the payment details interface from SEO Legacy? Which report or query?
So right now the report is exclusive for SEO since there is sensitive information on it. There is an online page where they can go ahead and look at accounting, how it was posted, because they will have to reclassify the entries to a lower level.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll show you that page in our demonstration for the Town Hall WebEx on November 14th. So please tune into that if you don't have it on your calendar, please reach out to your department liaison. Okay. That's all the questions we have. If anybody doesn't, we do have a little bit more time, but I think that we're just going to close the session down now. Got all the questions asking. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody for the people online for your participation, and then thank you for everybody who attended. I hope you guys at least like the venue. I know that you might not like the content as much. If you have any recommendations or feedback, please, you guys can send that to the Fiscal CMO mailbox. Oops. At fiscal.cmo@fiscal.ca.gov. We're doing our best to make sure every department knows what's coming, and then getting you guys involved in the process as much as possible for feedback. Thank you.
Smeeze, we have one more online question. We're waiting for it to be resent. Somebody's still waiting for a response.
Okay. Seems like there's one question.
Okay. Would the questions answers from today's webinar be posted under the Fiscal Library Resources link or somewhere else?
So the presentation for today's meeting is available on the website. We also will be releasing this recording. I don't think that there's currently no plans to transcribe it. We'll take a look into that and see if we can. Because I know that going through a video can be hard, but we do have some resource limitations to that. So we'll take a look at that and we'll have some conversations. But at the very least, the recording for this presentation will be available on this webpage.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We're going to close the WebEx down now.